What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I am back with some more boxing. Today is Monday, which means Ego's Monday mail days. Let's get it in. A lot of good questions. If I don't get to it this week, ask again next week. Now, for this one, since Danny Garcia just fought Lamont Peterson, I got a lot of Danny Garcia related questions, so I'm going to try to knock them all out. So if you don't give a shit about Danny Garcia, then you might want to skip to the later portion of the video because I'm going to answer the Danny questions first. And some of them are similar, so let's go through it. First question is from Khalifa Alameri. Danny Garcia flat-footed and overrated. After Lucas fight, he didn't improve. Do you think he had brain damage from the Lucas fight? And I think he need to change his father as a trainer. What do you think about that? Then Chris Jackson said, do you think Danny Garcia should drop his dad as a trainer and hire a new one like Virgil Hunter or someone else? And Obed said, hey, Ego, you think Danny Garcia needs to change trainers or in a rematch with Peterson? What does Danny Garcia need to improve? Also, you think Danny is ready for names like Thurman, Bradley, Maidana, etc. Okay, so since that's fresh on my mind, no, I don't think he should move up to 147 just yet, even though he says he wants to. He's been saying that, and for whatever reason, he hasn't moved up yet. So don't make the jump when you have all of these blemishes on your record at 140. I think he should clear him up, maybe fight a guy like Postal or Broner if he's not going to rematch one of his controversial wins, and then move up to welterweight. Because I think the welterweight's stacked, so I think he needs he should wait that out and perfect some things in his own fight game before he even considers moving up to the bigger guys. Because everything that you're experiencing, the difficulties at 140, is probably going to get worse at 47 because you got some boxer punchers up there. You got guys who can move and they hit harder. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think he should move up right away. I think he should work on his fight game and clear up some of those blemishes or fight the remaining guys like Broner or Postal. Then in a rematch with Peterson, what does he need to improve? I mean, sometimes you have to mimic what the other person's doing. Like if someone's slugging you to the gut and releasing vicious body shots, maybe you should try to fire back your own body shots. And I think Peterson had a great jab throughout the fight, and some were there to just be a rangefinder, and he kept popping it out though, and it was frustrating Danny Garcia. So even though Danny Garcia has shorter arms, maybe you should use a jab. Other thing, he needs to effectively cut off the ring, not follow. And one way to do that is to jab. And the timing, he showed good timing in the Amir Khan fight once he finally got a read on Khan, but he didn't really show it in the Lamont Peterson fight. Last thing, when a guy's that athletic like Lamont Peterson, clearly in shape, I told you guys at the weigh-in his back looked big, you need to slow him down some kind of way. A good way to do that is to go to the body. Danny Garcia, we know, has power, and he has a nice left hook, so he should have worked on the hook to the body to perhaps slow down Lamont Peterson. Your head, and actually Lamont Peterson had great head and upper body movement. The body's not going to move, you know what I mean? You're not going to be able to move your head with the same finesse like you can move your head. It's more of a stationary target, and it's not going anywhere. So I think he should have worked the body also. Now everybody's asking, do I think he should switch trainers? I'm not going to say it's a bad idea. I like Angel Garcia, but sometimes that father-son relationship doesn't work. There's a couple people that I think it would be interesting, not even necessarily change, but maybe incorporate somebody else. This is your father. He's not going anywhere. I think Robert Guerrero and his father, maybe if you don't want to get rid of him totally and switch, then maybe you should seek out somebody else to help you guys. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, Shane Mosley, fucking John David Jackson, Virgil Hunter, Roberto Garcia, anybody. And maybe that will benefit you just hearing, like, you've heard your father for the last 26 years or however old Danny Garcia is. So maybe you need some fresh advice and keep your father around, but maybe he's taken you as far as he could. I think Robert Guerrero's in the same boat. I also think Canelo and the Reynosos, they could use, I mean, Canelo's a good fighter, but I think under the tutelage of somebody else, he could probably learn some things that he hasn't been learning. And he also needs to cut off the rank. So I don't think it's a bad idea at all. First question said, do you think he has brain damage from Lucas? I don't know about all that. I think there's another question I missed. No, I think that covered it. So everyone's asking about the trainer, and I don't think you should move up. Switching a trainer is not a horrible idea, but you don't want to switch to someone who doesn't really suit your style or someone who's going to change your style. More Danny Garcia questions. G-Man Main X. I think Danny Garcia has issues with stamina, just like Jermaine Taylor has. And at 147, he'll run into someone that will get a late stoppage to defeat him. I like to get your thoughts on the comparison. Um, it's still a little bit premature. I'm not going to call him Jermaine Taylor at the moment. I think Jermaine Taylor fooled a lot of people. My brother's friend was a huge Jermaine Taylor, and he was always trying to put everyone on. Jermaine Taylor was, I don't know. I think Jermaine Taylor's a little bit extreme at the moment because Danny Garcia, I do think he has stamina issues, but I think some of his stamina issues come from guys who make him work, like Mauricio Herrera, guys like Lamont Peterson this weekend. Also, even guys like Zab Judah who hang around and they're athletic, and in the championship rounds, he looked pretty fatigued in that fight. So I think if you make him work, then he has stamina issues. But I wouldn't really compare him to Jermaine Taylor at the moment, just because when I think of Jermaine Taylor, I think of kind of a basket case in terms of more issues than just stamina, like mental issues and different things like that. And I think another reason I wouldn't compare those two is I think Jermaine Taylor was more weak-minded. I don't really, even though Danny Garcia looked like shit, I don't think he's weak-minded. I don't think his problem was stemming because he has that kind of frail Zab Judah, James Kirkland, you don't know what you're going to get type of personality or mentality. I don't really think it's that. I think he's pretty strong-willed. He just didn't have the tools or the knowledge of how to cut off the ring, but I think he has heart, and I think he was trying. So I wouldn't compare him to Jermaine Taylor. But as far as the stamina issues, I definitely have noticed that in a couple of his fights. He seems to tail off and fade, especially if you make him work. So I'm okay with that statement. Next question from Ali Dago 619. Do you think Terrence Crawford would be too much for Danny Garcia right now? Without seeing his fight with Thomas Delorme, just to see how he acclimates to 140 and just speculating off what I know, I would say yes. He's already beat him in the amateurs. Amateurs different than the pros. However, everything Danny Garcia has struggled with, Terrence Crawford has that ability. And I've seen Terrence Crawford live. The boy moves like water. You know what I'm saying? He has that guile to him. He's like very crafty, very slick, and he also has a good jab. And he rehydrates a lot. In the Gamboa fight, when he was fighting that lightweight at 135, he rehydrated over 150 pounds. So as long as he can carry some power up, his weight's already there. He has the frame to do it. He has a jab to do it. He has the elusive, slick. A lot of people were even comparing him to Pernell Whitaker. So not just because he beat him in the amateurs, because the amateurs different than the pros. Stylistically, it sounds like a nightmare for Danny Garcia based on what recent struggles I've seen with Danny Garcia. And that's guys that are elusive, crafty. You know what I'm saying? You don't get compared to Sweet Pea Whitaker if you don't have a skill set. And if you do, then the person who said it is retarded. Terrence Crawford is the goods. Plus, another problem for Danny Garcia, aside from the mental, the psychological effects of knowing you already lost to this guy in the amateurs, is he's ambidextrous and he can switch to southpaw. So having someone who could fight orthodox and then flip it at the drop of a dime like he did with Gamboa, and then go orthodox and then go southpaw, I think that might be a lot for Danny Garcia, and I don't think he wants that work right now. That's just my opinion. I think I got through all of the Danny Garcia questions. So moving on. This question comes from Justin Davis. Ego, great videos, man. You got the best content. Thank you. I just got to ask, how do you feel about Timothy Bradley against Danny Garcia, and who do you see winning that fight? In my opinion, the fight makes sense right now. Salamat, bro. I got to go with what I know. Timothy Bradley. Timothy Bradley's a hell of a fighter. Again, crafty. He fits the profile. It's just like I watch a lot of TV, and Forensic Files is one of my shows. That's my shit. You know what I mean? And when they get the criminal pathologists and the criminal profilers and shit, and they talk about who fits the profile of the killer that killed this girl or killed this dude or whatever, And when I talk, just like similar to the last question, when I talk about Danny Garcia, what he struggles with, Timothy Bradley fits that profile. A guy who's busy, a guy who's slick, a guy who's athletic. He doesn't have as much pop, but he has experience in big fights. I mean, anybody who fought Pacquiao twice, that's incredible experience. Even if you took Pacquiao off of Timothy Bradley's resume, his resume is still better than a lot of people. I mean, the guy fought Kendall Holt. He fought Devin Alexander. The guy who a lot of people feel beat Danny Garcia this weekend, he fought and beat Lamont Peterson and Ruslan Provodnikov. The list goes on and on and on. So Timothy Bradley, just off of experience, skill set, and what's frustrated Danny Garcia, I would definitely rock with Timothy Bradley. Plus, I mean, Bradley has a chin too. He showed you that in the Ruslan Provodnikov fight, that if you don't, you know what I mean, it's probably going to take more than just one punch to actually get him out of there. And he was getting hit flush by Ruslan, and he went the distance. So definitely would favor, especially off of what my recent experiences with Danny Garcia, what I've seen, I would favor Timothy Bradley. Next question. I guess I'm not done with the Danny Garcia questions. I thought I was. Does Super Mario 69? Hey, Ego, been a fan of your channel. Keep up the good work. Do you think the winner of Lucas Matisse versus Ruslan Provodnikov should face Danny Garcia for his titles if Danny decides not to move up in weight? I think first order of business is for Danny Garcia to go back to the drawing board, and I would like to see him fight one of his rematches. I also like Lucas Matisse if he's not going to rematch one of the guys that have the blemish and the black cloud on his resume, like Mauricio O'Hara or Lamont Peterson, then hell yeah, I would love to see a guy like Lucas Matisse, Ruslan Provodnikov winner. I really don't see that fight going the distance. I think that's a banger of a fight, and that's a meaningful fight at 140. So, I mean, whoever wins, more power to them. And I think they'll win by stoppage. So, therefore, in my opinion, they will have earned it. If it's Lucas Matisse, that will be a rematch with Danny Garcia. A lot of people complained about the thumb or the punch, whatever caused his eye to be fucked up. I don't know. It looked like a punch, but I'm not his eye or a glove, so I don't really know. Either way, this will be his shot at redemption. If not, we'll get to see Danny Garcia against the style that he typically does good with, but against an attrition, powerful, very strong guy. And it'll be interesting to see Danny Garcia against that. Next question is from Mike Moe. And hold on one second. The question is, Ego, if Mayweather beats Manny on May 2nd in a convincing win, enough for people to not want to see a rematch, which could happen, who should Floyd fight next on September? Truthfully, I think if he does beat Pacquiao in that fashion, where it's just like no rematch needed, he just shut Pacquiao out or knocked him out or something crazy, then I would want to see him retire, truthfully, because you've already, what can you do beyond that? But knowing Money Mayweather, knowing that boxers, you can't tell a boxer no, they're going to keep fighting. Roy Jones is still fighting. He's my favorite fighter. He's still fighting. I didn't want to see him fight 5 years ago. You know what I'm saying? He's still fighting. So, I mean, you can't tell a boxer no, and Floyd likes his money, so I really don't think, I think the money will be too good. If he does beat Pacquiao in that fashion, the money will be too good, so he will fight. And if he's going to fight, I just want to see him fight a good quality opposition. If Amir Khan does something worthwhile, he's been begging for a fight, I would be okay with that. Before a fight with Khan, I would say a champion, any champion in the division, a guy like Keith Thurman, a guy like Kell Brook, or Kell Brook Amir Khan fight, and he fights the winner, something like that. I think any of those are great, solid matchups for Floyd in September. If not, I mean, this is a long shot, but fight someone at 154 like Demetrius Andrade, fight someone like Laura. But I really don't think those guys carry the fan base and the level of money where he would want to, quote-unquote, close his career, because technically his next fight is his last fight after Pacquiao. So I don't think you close his career with a guy that doesn't really make business sense like that, especially after the Pacquiao. But those are fights that I personally like, any of those fights that I named. Next question is from Vontae123. Is Broner a top 5 140 fighter? I would say yes. I think Broner has a good skill set. He's off of a couple of wins. Emmanuel Taylor, he had a knockdown. It was a competitive fight. he pretty much dominated Carlos Molina, which I'm not gonna say he's the cream of the crop or nothing. And then he pretty much dominated John Molina. So I would say he's top five. Top five is pretty dense. You got Danny Garcia, Victor Postal, Lamont Peterson. I think he definitely could fit up there. Lucas Matisse, Ruslan. You can mix and match really any of those guys. Skill-wise, I definitely would say he's top five out of the current roster. But, I mean, it's starting to get packed. Thomas Delorme versus Terrence Crawford, whoever wins that fight, I'm going to rank them high at 140 because that's a good fight where both fighters have a shot to win. They both have a good skill set and stuff. So I would say top five for sure. Next question, Eatman888. Any books, videos, or documentaries that can help the novice fan expand, I think expound, but I think that's expand their knowledge. Great channel with great content, Ego. I'm real big on documentaries. Ooh, off the top of my head, there's one called, I'm looking at it right now, one that I own is called Ring of Fire, the Emil Griffith story. That's a great one. That's if you want to learn a little bit more about an older fighter. He actually passed away not too long ago. That's a good one with a good story. It's well made, put together. I'm a huge Mike Tyson fan, so Tyson has a bunch. The Tyson documentaries that he came out with are good. I have to get back to you off the top of my head. Those are ones that I got a lot of highlight tapes. Like I got Tyson knockouts and Roy Jones greatest hits. I wish they had one for Prince Nassim and a couple of other guys, but those are all good ones. Johnny Tapia's movie that they did recently was really good, really well put together. I would say that's definitely a good start. And then there's movies that I like, actual boxing movies. So just hit me up if you need some more suggestions. But I don't know exactly what you're looking for. Those are a couple off the top of my head. Next question is from Elias Artiega. In your opinion, how would you classify someone as Flomo/Pactard? And why do you think the word is used so much in the boxing community? As for me, I mean, I don't classify anybody as like a Flomo Pactard. I'm a grown man. That's what it boils down to. I'm a grown man. I don't have time for these little schoolyard recess games. And, you know what I'm saying? I haven't played tetherball in years. This is like, it's really some childish stuff to me, this whole Flomo Pactard war of comments. Like anybody says anything good about Pacquiao, they're automatically a Pactard. If you say anything positive about Floyd, you're a Flomo. I don't entertain that. I don't get into that because, like I said, I'm a grown-ass man with priorities, and that's definitely not anywhere on my priority list. I think it's popular just because we got a lot of casual fans, and it's the internet. You know what I mean? People say whatever they want on the internet and just run around talking crazy, and that's just is kind of the climate of the technological age. So I personally don't get into all of that. I say that for the people who love that type of stuff. But some people are trolls. They just want to talk shit and pick fights with people, and they get their kicks off, Flomo and starting wars and, you know what I mean, getting a rise out of people. So I think that's what it really boils down to. Next question, Black Chang, 1981. Ego, boxing ego. What do you think has a worse psychological effect on a fighter's career, being outclassed/shutout? Example, Mayweather, Canelo, Rigondeaux versus donate. Well, you guys should donate to my channel. Nah, I think that's obviously for Donaire. Garcia versus Peterson, or being knocked out, Khan versus Garcia, Dawson versus Stevenson, Marquez versus Pacquiao 4. Someone posed me with that question recently, and I'm curious to hear your response. Ooh, that's a very good question. And I ultimately think it boils down to a few things. One, where the fighter is in their career. If it's late in your career and you've been through wars and shit, then, I mean, either of those things will definitely be your undoing. So it depends where you're at, because there's certain parts like Pacquiao, he got knocked out early in his career, and then he went on to do some pretty remarkable things and become 8-division world champion, even though one of them was at a catchweight. But either way, he did a lot of great things in boxing, right? So he bounced back because it happened early. Canelo, he lost to Mayweather, but he's still young enough and learning. Came back and beat the shit out of Angulo, had a controversial fight with Edison de Lara, and now he's fighting James Kirkland. So, I mean, if you're young, I think you could possibly bounce back. And I would honestly say they're both about equal. It really just boils down to the fighter. how tough you are mentally, because both of those things I can think of strong examples of mental anguish, and the fighter has never been the same after a shutout. And I can also think about people that got knocked out and they were never the same. Chad Dawson got knocked out, stretched by Adonis Stevenson, and he came into the weigh-in looking fat at his next fight, and it just didn't look like the same Chad. Then he had a shoulder injury or something in his fight and lost it, and he was complaining. I haven't heard from him since. You also got guys like Rigondeaux who just put on a clinic on Nonito Donaire, and Donaire just doesn't look like the same. And you got to keep in mind, Donaire is a guy who only had one loss, and it was like early in his pro career. I'm talking about maybe in his first 5 fights, his second fight or something like that. And then he went on to not lose for like 11 years or something before Rigondeaux came along and shut that down. Then all of a sudden, Nonito Donaire just starts looking horrible. A guy he already beat years before in Vic Darchinyan, he struggled with before he finally got the TKO. He had the Simpe Vacheka fight, and it looked like he checked out when he got a clash of heads or some shit. And then he got stopped by Nicholas Walters. So it really looked like that schooling took its toll on him. Garcia, Peterson, Garcia, Herrera. And see, this is the thing. When it's a schooling, outclassing shutout, it kind of opens up the floodgate for a blueprint. Like, people are like, oh, Danny Garcia, you don't like the jab. Lamont Peterson and Barry Hunter, they could have like developed their whole game plan based on what we seen Garcia struggle with versus Mauricio Herrera. So, I mean, I would say they're equal. I mean, getting knocked out, Pacquiao recovered from it early in his career. Then he went on to win after the Marquez loss. But then you also have guys like Meldrick Taylor after the Chavez Sr. loss, KO loss in the last round. He never looked the same. So there's no one answer to that. I think it really boils down to the person, who they are. You could say Zab Judah after the Costa Zoo knockout, was he the same? You know what I mean? There's a ton of ways in fights you could support both ways. I've seen people get shut out, and then after they get schooled, they look Tavoris Cloud. Bernard Hopkins schooled him, made him look like a rookie. Then he lost to Adonis Stevenson. Better be have slept him. He just looked like shit. And this was a guy who was undefeated, even though, in my opinion, he lost to Campillo before that. His record said he was undefeated, fought Bernard Hopkins, looked horrible. Bernard Hopkins also schooled Kelly Pavlik, and then you can say Pavlik didn't look exactly the same. So it works both ways, and I think it really just boils down to the fighter ultimately and what they're prepared to overcome, and what point in their career it actually happens. That's the best way I can answer it. Next question, Greg Moody. Why is Brandon Rios getting the winner of Gavin versus Brooks? Doesn't make sense. They should be trying to make the Rios-Ortiz fight at 147. Now, I agree with everything. The Rios-Ortiz fight, it's bad blood. It's been brewing. This is a fight I wanted to see for quite some time. I literally don't know why Brandon Rios is the trophy for the winner of the IBF championship with Kell Brook and Gavin with that title defense. I really have no answer for that. If anything, I think Kell Brook, since he already took care of his mandatory in Jojo Dan, he should fight Brandon Rios, and then you get a bigger fight. Not fight a fight that nobody gives a shit about in Frankie Gavin, and then the winner gets Brandon Rios. I don't see how Brandon Rios, and no disrespect, I met Rios, he's a cool cat, but I mean, he's really off of one win. Before that, he lost, I think, 2 in a row to Pacquiao and then Alvarado in the second fight. So in his last 3 fights, he won 1 fight. And it looked, and this is no disrespect to him because he looked great in it. I seen it live. I was there. He was nasty. He was chunking them, throwing crazy uppercuts. But I also have to acknowledge the fact, I mean, I'm a realist. Cotto fought Sergio Martinez. Martinez looked like his injuries wounded him. Not discrediting Cotto, because it still takes a good fighter to execute. Same thing with Brandon Rios versus Alvarado 3. Alvarado seemed like he was there for a paycheck. He quit, and he wasn't even fighting back. That looked nothing like the first 2 fights. So, I mean, it was a great win to resurrect Brandon Rios' career. And again, it takes something to execute. But I don't know. And I don't even think the Brandon Rios Kell Brook is a bad fight. I just don't see how he's at this point of his career, losing 2 out of 3 of your last fights, I don't see why he's the winner. Like why is he mandated as like the prize? It should be the other way around. Like Frankie GAVIN versus Rios, winner gets killed Brook. So I can't answer that. I don't really know. I don't have a sound argument because it's not my decision. Next question, Boxing Fan 206. Do you think Andre Ward would have the same success at 175 as he's had at 168? Tough telling. 168 Super 6 happened quite some time ago. I want to see how he looks in his comeback fight. He should be fighting out here where I'm from, in the Bay, Oakland, Oracle. I know you guys see the Golden State Warriors and Steph Curry getting off, breaking ankles, CP3, Chris Paul, all y'all falling on the ground and all that. But he should be coming back in June. I can't say he has the same success. Like I said, I want to see how he looks because he's been on a long layoff. He has a new deal. He had injury. So I want to see how he looks. I think skill-wise and personality-wise and mentally, he can have success at 175, but it's still a tall order. You got Beterbiev and Kovalevs and Jean Pascals. You got a lot of good fighters up there. So it's possible. And you have to keep in mind, Andre Ward garnered his gold medal at that division at 175. So, I mean, it's possible. Anybody who got a gold medal in that division, that's definitely worth a damn when you make the Olympic tryouts. And not only that, you get a gold medal. He got his gold medal at 175 at light heavyweight. So I think if he works his way back up to that, because he hasn't really been fighting there, he can be a problem up there. But like I said, one thing at a time, one step at a time. And the final question from W. Blake 22. How do you effectively cut off the ring? Why is it so many fighters that don't know how to do this? Good question. I don't know why. I think it just comes down to your schooling. A lot of fighters have a lot of bad habits. They're excellent at, you got to look at it like this. Certain fighters, if you're excellent at something, you kind of go with the flow. And sometimes being excellent in that one category is enough to get you by. But when you step up in competition and you start fighting elite level guys, you can't be a one-trick pony. You can't just be, even though I got 22 people out of there by power only, when you start fighting elite class like people who aren't willing to, undefeated guys and elite guys who aren't willing to let their go, or they don't want to take a loss, or they're crafty, or they're resourceful, they have recuperative skills, they can get hurt and still have clear head and sense of mind to recover. When you got guys who are like that, they're not going to go easy. So I think some fighters, they get like kind of pigeonholed in their bad habits. And again, maybe you can execute when you're fighting bums or a certain grade of opponent, and you don't have to cut off the ring. Maybe once you hit someone because they don't have a good defense or whatever, they get knocked the fuck out. And you've been able to get by that. But then when you, like, let's say Danny Garcia versus Lamont Peterson, he's had his ups and downs in his career. He got dropped and knocked out by Lucas Matisse. He's a crafty guy. He's not willing. He doesn't want to go back into the bottom of the pit. You know what I'm saying? He wants to showcase, like, he's on Premier Boxing Champs. There's a lot riding on it. So when you get a guy who's crafty like that, who has heart, you're going to have to do more. You know what I mean? So if you haven't been instructed and you don't have the proper schooling on how to do it, or you haven't had to do it throughout your career, then that's why you suck at it, because you haven't practiced. Practice makes permanent. You know what I'm saying? So if you're not accustomed to doing it, or if you got schooled the wrong way and someone instructed you in the incorrect fashion, then of course you're not going to be good at it when it comes time to deal with that person who's going to force that out of you, because again, it's just not something you had been doing. It's similar to like being bilingual. Let's say you learned Spanish when you were a kid, but you didn't stick with it. A lot of people forget, you know what I'm saying? Like if you learned Spanish when you're 4, 5, and 6 years old, and then all throughout middle school you never use it, all throughout high school you never use it, you become 25, then you probably only know a select few things, if anything, because you haven't consistently been working on it, you know what I mean, and practicing with it. Of course, you're not going to be accustomed to those things. So I think ultimately it just boils down to schooling. And some people never learned how to properly cut off the ring. There's a lot of things you could do to cut off the ring, but if you have bad habits and you don't have the right instructor showing you, then you're not going to know how to do it. And then, I mean, some of it, I would say some of it, like a small portion of it, just stems from your ability. You know what I mean? Some people, like, their feet are slow. So when someone is quick on their feet, they can't catch them. So you have to move with them. You can't let them make the move and then try to, like, stutter step and catch up to them and stuff. So you have to be quick. So I would say some, like a small portion of it is your natural innate ability, and then the rest is just practicing it or lack of practicing it in the gym. You got to work on, boxing is about rhythm. It's about timing. And when someone, like, you have to telegraph certain things. You have to, not telegraph, you have to anticipate. So you have to anticipate, let's say there's multiple spots, A, B, C, and D. If eventually the whole goal in the escape route is for the fighter to get from position A to D, then you have to anticipate them going through B and C and D and be waiting for them at D, if that makes any sense. So you don't let them go through all these steps to get to where they wanted to be without doing anything. You have to kind of foreshadow their movement. You know what I mean? There's a rhythm to it. They're moving to their left for a reason. They're circling to the right for a reason. And you have to have that rhythm about you to know what they're doing and to prevent it and cut off the ring. Head movement, jab, timing, good foot speed. Those are all things that can help. So there's no one way to make it effective. It's just a culmination of things. But I ultimately know for a fact, if you haven't been practicing it, then you're not going to be good at it. There's guys like Triple G, and you could tell he has over 400 pro fights or excuse me, amateur fights, or 390 or whatever it is, amateur fights. So he already knew he had power. So that's something he's obviously worked on throughout his career. That's why he's so good at it right now. And when you fight 350 plus people, trust me, you've been in there with different styles. So Triple G had to find a way to deliver his power no matter what style he was up against. If they're quote unquote runners, or they did this or that, or if they're tall or short, you have to figure out a way to get your shots off. And that's why he's good at it versus other guys like Canelo. You know what I mean? Maybe they never learned because Canelo's not good at cutting off the ring. Danny Garcia, I don't recall him looking as bad, but again, when you step up in class and you're fighting guys like Lamont Peterson, then maybe they're just moving too good and you're not used to it. But I thought Danny Garcia was a little bit better about cutting off the ring than he showed us last week. So that pretty much wraps it up. Monday Mail Day. Drop me a comment. Let me know how you think I did. And stay tuned next week. If I didn't get your question, I'll try to answer it then. Make sure you like my video as always. Hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video, it's Ego signing off.